Welp, here we have it, folks. The Vice President of the United States just came out and failed to condemn Nazi rhetoric. Rhetoric about raping women. Rhetoric about gassing Jewish people in chambers. JD Vance came out and essentially just softly ran defense for the Young Republicans group that was busted in a text group chat for saying things like, quote, "I love Hitler." Saying things like, quote, "Everyone that votes no is going to the gas chamber." And obviously, a trigger warning for this video, we're going to be talking about a lot of really heinous far-right rhetoric, but at this point, this is reality. There has been something dark bubbling under the surface of the GOP for years, and I'm not just talking about MAGA. Make America Great Again has been out in the open. Trump has been out in the open, but there is something deeper. And listen to this, because there is this movement of younger people who are associated with Nick Fuentes, associated with this far-right movement, that are openly and unapologetically okay with Hitler fanaticism. And right when you think that the Vice President of the United States might take a stance and provide some moral clarity, I mean, my naive ass thought, okay, the leaders of the Republican Party are at least going to be quiet about this. They're just going to try to act like it never happened. The people saying, "I love Hitler," they'll probably ignore it, right? But no, JD Vance comes out today and makes it much, much worse. Before we get to JD Vance, check out New York Governor Kathy Hochul. I mean, a lot of these young Republicans were from New York. She gives a great response. And just to back up, if you haven't seen my video about this before, a bunch of young Republicans across the country got caught in this group chat using just far-right rhetoric is an understatement. It's not far-right rhetoric. It is Nazi rhetoric. It is rhetoric about Jewish people being inferior, rhetoric about women needing to be you-know-what. Over and over and over, they would text this. Thousands and thousands of group chat text messages. Here's what Governor Kathy Hochul said about this.
Question?
Politico reported on a group chat of a bunch of young Republicans. I'm wondering your thoughts on that, and does this reflect, is it just some bad young apples in this chat? Or do you think that there's a toxicity around the entire party?
Some bad apples. These are the future of the Republican Party. This was so vile. It is hard to find the words to put into context that these are people who are part of a political party, one of two major political parties, and they believe in gas chambers and rape and discrimination based on the color of people's skins. These are racist, sexist, disgusting remarks. And I would say this. We have a leader from the Republican Party in this state, the highest ranking individual, who in the backdrop of all this calls our candidate for mayor, one of our candidates for mayor, a jihadist and a terrorist, and then somehow says, oh, what they said, these young Republicans, was wrong. Like, look at what you say yourself. Look at your inflammatory words. And maybe they have an effect on these young people, many of whom you support and have supported you. And you ought to just do a little re-examination of how far this has gone.
It has gone way too far, and to be honest, I don't think some of the older GOP Republicans understand what is happening with the younger generation. And just, it's hard to describe, especially if you're one of my audience members who isn't really familiar with the younger online culture. There is something very dark bubbling up. And I know the response to that is going to be, Adam, something dark has been out in the open since Trump entered politics. And I wouldn't disagree, but it's deeper than that. This is not just MAGA Republicanism anymore. There is like actual Hitler fanaticism at the trenches of the Republican Party building up to the top, and it's insane. JD Vance, who is supposed to be a leader in our country and provide any sort of moral clarity, decides to come out and say, quote, "This is far worse than anything said in a college group chat." And the guy who said it might become the AG of Virginia. He's talking about Jay Jones sending text messages about the death of his opponent's children, which, novel idea. Both things can be bad at the same time. We can have a standard and say, hey, what Jay Jones did, what he said a few years back in private text messages, it's not a cool thing to say, especially if you're going to be the top criminal prosecutor of the state. Probably should reel back the rhetoric like that. But at the same time, Holy shit, these Republicans across the country are Nazis. They are far-right Nazis. So I'm not going to sit here and finger wag Jay Jones when the Republican Party has it coming from the top down. If I want to be just, like, if I want to give my honest thoughts, I think both situations are bad, but I think the Jay Jones one is one level of bad. That is an individual who can take individual responsibility. But what these young Republicans are doing, it's levels above. This is not an individual. This is thousands, tens of thousands of text messages. And JD Vance's statement is awful. Let me just read it in full. So he includes Jay Jones's text, and he says, "This is far worse than anything said in a college group chat." It's not. He says, "And the guy who said it could become the AG of Virginia. I refuse to join the pearl clutching when powerful people call for political violence." Are you joking? Stephen Miller has said the Democratic Party is not a political party. They're a party of extremist terrorists. Donald Trump says that we are gnats that need to be taken care of. We are the enemy from within. Elon Musk says the Democratic Party is a domestic extremist organization. The way that the leaders of the Republican Party speak is absolutely absurd. And just listen to this. When Donald Trump back in 2023 gave a speech to the young Republicans of New York, the exact same people who had these leaked texts, he said, Trump claims a general who had seen soldiers die on the battlefield then told him the bravest thing he ever saw was Trump's, quote, locker room talk answer during the debate. Trump's locker room talk answer was when the Access Hollywood tapes released, and he was talking about grabbing women by the you-know-what because they let you do it. Then he was asked, and he said, this is just locker room talk. This is how guys speak. Now Republicans are trying to use that same defense for this young Republicans club. Donald Trump, in 2023, claimed a general who had seen soldiers die on the battlefield told them the bravest thing he ever saw was a locker room talk during the debate. And he was talking to the young Republicans club at the time. So you can safely assume anyone who was, 18, 20 at this time, listening to this, heading into college, was thinking, oh, so we can speak in despicable ways behind the scenes whenever we want and still rise to power, still have the power dynamic that we need. The crazy thing is, Micah Irfan, our lead policy advisor, points out, this is what the racists in your replies look like. When you have racist people going after you online claiming they're the master race, it's this guy. Or it's this guy. I'm not here to make fun of anyone's looks, genuinely. That's not something that I do or something that I believe in. But when you're claiming that you are the superior race, you deserve to be knocked down a peg because you are not the superior race. What about this guy? This guy right here. Or this guy. This guy was apparently talking about gas chambers in group chats. Just in case you guys haven't seen my last video, just run through some of this. Leaders of young Republicans groups throughout the country worried whatever might happen if their Telegram chat got leaked, but they kept typing away. They referred to black people as, quote, monkeys and the watermelon people, and then mused about putting their political opponents in gas chambers. They talked about raping their enemies and driving them to suicide and lauded Republicans who they believed support slavery. William Hendricks, the Kansas Young Republicans vice chair, used slurs like the N-word, other variations of the racial slur more than a dozen times in the chat. They talked about rape like it was epic. This is the future of the Republican Party. Somehow the young Republicans are acting more racist than the old Republicans, and somehow JD Vance doesn't have the spine to come out and condemn this. Honestly, JD Vance's statement, and I know this is going to sound naive, JD Vance's statement blew my mind. I thought that JD Vance was going to be quiet about it. I thought that if he did say something, he would maybe invoke Democrats, but say, hey, both sides do this. But no. JD Vance played defense for people talking about gas chambers. People talking about Indian women in such a way that would make JD Vance's wife cry if someone told her that in person. This is insane stuff. And the fact that JD Vance is running defense for it needs to be called out. I am done. I am done taking prisoners in these debates. And I mean that metaphorically, not literally. I'm not calling for violence. I am done being soft in any of these debates. I want to go hard and call out this political incitement coming from the right in a top-down way and dripping down to the young Republicans. If you're with me on that journey, double check to make sure you subscribe to the Adam Mockler feed below. I love you all. Peace out.